Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be letting you know what is my biggest fear for the game in the future of World of Tanks. And the hero today, Quenale, is going to be playing in the Object 752, which is one of the tanks at question as to one of my biggest fears for the game. Last week I made a video about how I did not like +0, -0 matchmaking. I feel like it's stale, doesn't have the variety, I can't really enjoy playing a whole evening of +0, -0, so on and so forth. In that video I highlighted using the Awesome Tomatoes GG that there are actually tiers which get no same tier matchmaking. Tier 7, one of the reasons why I enjoy that tier so much. No same tier matchmaking, wonderful variety at that tier, one of my favorite tiers to play. And also tier 9. Tier 9, it gets a little bit of same tier matchmaking, but not very much. And that's because of the huge glut of tanks at tier 8 and the huge glut of tanks at tier 10, which mean that tier 9 vehicles are kind of fillers for the ideal, I guess, template system, which will be a 3-tier spread. Which is why tier 9 matchmaking feels so nice, and I really enjoy it. And so, when Wargaming released tier 9 premium tanks, it was really good. They were not overpowered, they were definitely below the power of all of the tier 9 vehicles, and that made it so you could play them without feeling A, guilty, and B, not too many of them were filling the matchmaker, because they weren't better than the regular vehicles, so most people would go down to play tier 8 to play the overpowered premium tanks inside the game, to either make more credits or to play at a tier which is a lot easier to play. Tier 8 is significantly easier than tier 9, and so you didn't have a huge amount of players wanting to play just tier 9 premiums for all of those reasons. The issue is, with the Object 752, which was released in loot boxes 4 months ago, that this vehicle is just as good, if not arguably better, than the other tier 9 heavy tanks that are in the game. Now, of course, there are some vehicles, I'm looking at you, Concept 1B, that I think are better than the 752. However, remember, that vehicle is not a premium tank, it's a reward tank, and while it does get played a lot, you don't really see tons of them in the matchmaker because people aren't playing them to grind credits. Grinding credits in World of Tanks is probably the main reason why you would play a premium tank, right? It's not so much just about the crew training, it's not so much just about the vehicle is very good, it's because you want to make credits. Now, because I feel that tier 8 matchmaking is not that enjoyable, that tier 9 matchmaking is with the increased variety and the lack of same tier matchups, the problem is that after Wargaming effectively, at least in my opinion, and remember this is a subjective opinion, it's just my opinion, you don't have to agree, have ruined tier 8 by putting in overpowered tanks that people just want to play constantly. BZ-176s, you've got the Skoda T56, Borasks, Astron Rexes, you know, even ELC, even 90s that you can't manage to find. Although there are tanks that you can't manage to find at tier 9 as well, but they're not premium, and so nobody's really playing them and driving into bushes and just sitting there and ruining the game. If Wargaming continue to release vehicles that are not just as good but better than tier 9 tanks, then they will become very harmful for the matchmaker. The 752 is actually pumping out 2% plus average win ratio for all of the players that play it. And it has a base win ratio of over 53%. That gives it, currently in the last 30 days, the 4th best win ratio of any tier 9 tank. However, one of the tanks that's above that is the WZ-120 GFT, and that's only been played 600 times in the last 30 days because nobody plays that vehicle, and the only people who do have an exceptionally high win ratio, and it's actually causing them to lose win ratio compared to this. So if Wargaming in the future continue to release vehicles that are as good or better with premium status at tier 9, what is going to end up happening is the tier 9 will just become the old tier 8. There'll be overpowered tanks. You won't enjoy playing your tier 9 tech tree tanks, and not just that, if everybody finds that they can smash their way with overpowered premium tanks at tier 9 before everyone else has overpowered premium tanks at tier 9, then that is going to be the new tier 8 OP premium, if you understand what I'm suggesting. And considering how few tiers there are left in the game, I think just tier 7 and tier 9 that you can play at high tier without, should we say, ridiculously overpowered vehicles in the majority of your games and same tier matchmaking, I feel like Tier 9 is one of the last hopes for World of Tanks. And if Wargaming continue down the path of releasing better and better premium tanks at Tier 9, and of course from a monetization perspective, it makes sense. You start off with your Stridsvagn Ks, you know, like a regular Tier 9 but 10% worse. Then you have kind of like Chieftain Proto. Then you have kind of like the Tiger Mouse that went in, and the 752K, which is just slightly above the average line that is my left hand. But as soon as you have more and more of these vehicles going up here, the tier is ruined. And now that Wargaming, through either cowardice or legal issues, don't want to nerf any of the premium tanks that go in the game, it makes it very dangerous when they do release them, because everyone that goes into the game is a risk that if it becomes popular, then it could be like a new BZ-176, where Wargaming, to be fair with the BZ-176, they've admit they've made a mistake and they don't want, they haven't released that vehicle in over the year now, a year and 4 months since it was first released, and I really hope they do continue to keep that policy, because as soon as they release the BZ-176, it's pretty much them saying that they don't care about the balance of the game over all of the money that they could make from it. But again, it's just a short-minded cash grab, because while they can make money from releasing overpowered premiums, then they make it harder for new players to continue playing the game, and also they can get a lot of the hardcore veterans to quit World of Tanks, just thinking like enough is enough. I don't have that vehicle because I wasn't playing at Christmas and now I can't get it. Or even the whales might end up feeling. The investors in World of Tanks, if you want to call them that, will maybe start to migrate and go elsewhere because they can't harvest all of the krill that are no longer wanting to play because there are the overpowered vehicles inside the game. So, Tier 9. I feel like it's one of the last true fun tiers of World of Tanks for me to play, along with Tier 7, and I truly hope that my fear that Wargaming will release better and better Tier 9 premium tanks is purely irrational. Okay, with all of that said and done, in the last 7.5 minutes, quenale has had an absolute monster game here. Sure, they've been spamming full gold, but when you're playing a premium tank, you can spam full gold. And you can still make credits at the end of the battle if you've managed to be doing as much damage as quenale has. 8,500, and now with 4 shells left in the vehicle, they're going after this Tier 10 Chinese heavy tank. Quenale is willing to take a shot for the team. He puts one through the upper plate. The SW1 finishes them off as well. And we can see that the BZ-75 wasn't even interested in shooting quenale there. They wanted to engage the SW1 behind, which is definitely one of the benefits to having hit points and playing with them at the end of the battle. That quite often, if there's a low health tank behind you, you can bomb it round the corner, and good players will not shoot the tank that has the high hit points, they'll engage the tank that has the low hit points. So quenale not only gets to be a good guy, but they don't even take the 650 damage that the BZ-75 would have been able to deal to them. And if that is not a win-win situation, I don't know what is. But talk about win-win situation. The SW1 gets themselves isolated, and the CS-59, now on 759 hit points, is in a 1 versus 2 with a Borsig on quenale's team. Quenale is doing a really good job of communicating with his allies, quite often asking them to fall back, asking them for help, and as we can see, multiple times communicating their reload when the game got tough. And you can communicate your reload either by holding down the Z key and using the radial inside the game, or depending on what you have for your control setup, we can see that reload is on the F8 key right there. Mine is a little bit weird. I have indicate position on T, F2s in different places, and I have the retreat on F3 because that's what it was originally like back in the game, so I have to be able to change a few of the keys around. So, quenale, irrelevant of playing the best premium tank at Tier 9 inside the game, has had an absolute stonking round. Nearly over 9,000 damage dealt. But they're having to try and hunt down a high DPM Polish medium tank in the form of the CS-59. Now, they could be anywhere in this situation. They're pretty fast in the CS-59. Quenale is asking the Borsig to cap, and I think that would be the best thing that the Borsig could do, even if they are on low hit points, because if the CS-59 does go after them, they'll reveal their position, and then that will allow Quenale to hopefully be able to close them down. And oh wow, it doesn't look like quenale's going to need to close them down. They put one into the CS-59. They ram the CS-59 for 100. They fire a second shell into the buildings, and then they put their third one in. That was really greedy, let me tell you. What quenale wanted to do was to go for a Faden's medal. But actually, with 298 damage dealt, there was a very, very small chance that if they had min-rolled, that they wouldn't have actually had any rounds left for the CS-59. If they hadn't have rammed for that extra 100 damage, yeah, they would have been in a terrible, it would have been less than a 50-50 to be able to destroy the CS-59 with the last shot. But maybe quenale felt they could ram them. That could have been the biggest embarrassment in World of Tanks history. Imagine being so greedy to finish off the last tank with the last remaining shell. Although it wasn't that much of a fudge Faden's medal, it could have been an absolute disaster and ended up losing a game where quenale was able to do just shy of 10,000 damage. Nevertheless, this was an incredible game showing exactly why this tank is an absolute monster. 3-round autoloader, incredibly angled side armor that I can show you if we go inside the vehicle here, all along this front, which means that you can over-angle it like this and bait. The upper hull is incredible. It's only the lower plate here that we can see that's actually weak on this tank. And while it does have this roof that sticks up when you use the gun depression, exposing its weak points, if you raise the gun in between its shots, its weak points actually hide, and then you've just got a big fat turret. It's just the all-purpose, very convenient, very solid tier 9 heavy. And the more kind of tanks that we see that go into the game at tier 9 that are clearly above average compared to all of the other tier 9s, the worse the matchmaking gets. And eventually that kind of degradation will lead to tier 9 no longer being one of the last hopes of an enjoyable tier to play of World of Tanks. So a Faden's medal here, a bit risky for that cheeky last shot into the last remaining tank, and a high caliber medal for just shy of 10,000 damage dealt. This was 1,882 base experience, and even though quenale fired full gold, because they were using a credit booster, they made 147,000 credits profit. Absolutely mad when you think that they spent 144,000 credits on ammunition, as well as 23,000 on consumables. But considering that on this tank, one of the only downsides is that low standard pen and the relatively limited amount of shells that it can take at 30, when you're a paying customer, why wouldn't you go full gold? So, quenale, congratulations to you on this absolute monster game of World of Tanks, irrelevant of the fears that it gives me for the future of the game. And thank you for so much for uploading a replay onto the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I thoroughly did, and I hope all of you out there enjoyed this YouTube video as well. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know what is your biggest fear for World of Tanks in the future. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Friday, I'm going live now all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, where you can come and get yourself 50 Battle Pass points just for watching the stream and doing a series of 10 easy missions inside the game. And let me clarify, last time it was slightly bugged. Wargaming ended up fixing it, so I hope everybody got their stuff, and this time, touch wood, Wargaming hopefully won't have it bugged out. So really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.